performance. I just want to go through a couple of myths today about training when you're over 40 years of age, and especially relating to starting. One of my key pillars as a coach is to help people over 40 find their fitness, find their strength again, or to keep it until you're well into retirement. So one of the myths that I want to cover off is you're not fit enough to start. So there are countless examples that I can offer where people have started, and the great thing about strength, especially strength, is it's progressive. So wherever you start from, you'll get better. So if I can put it into context, it doesn't matter to me or pretty much anyone else around you what you can do right now, but it will matter to them and maybe more to you what you can do in 10 years' time. So if you're 40 or in your 40s now and you haven't trained you haven't exercised for, since you were late teens or 20s, and you've had a busy life since then it doesn't matter that you haven't done that. But what really matters in a scientific context, putting a bit of a nerd hat on, is to do it now or to start as soon as you can now. And it doesn't matter if you only start once a week, it matters that you start. And the reason for that is that in my experience of over 25 years of coaching, it's much, much easier to help someone in their 40s to grow than it is in their 70s who are coming because they've been told they've got something significantly wrong or concerning, and it's kind of a life sentence for them. So, rubbish. To convince yourself to come back to regular structured exercise. The reason that I'm doing these chats is because one of my areas of interest is to help people over 40 find themselves in exercise again in a way that makes you feel comfortable and makes you keep doing it. I don't care whether you're coming to see me or coming to see someone else, but what I really care about is more Australians do it. So at the moment, bit of a stat is only 17% of Australians do enough exercise to benefit your health. So that's 17%, and there's 25 odd million people that live in this country. We've always been seen as a very active community of people. However, that statistic is really concerning. So I'm appealing to you, as if you're over 40 years of age and you haven't exercised for a long time or maybe not ever, it's never too late to start. And one of the biggest myths that I hear said to me so many times when someone is considering starting is that I'm too unfit to start. I'll start myself. I'll do a couple of walks a week. If you were going to do that, you would have done it already. So please trust somebody to help get you going. When we teach teenagers, to draw an example, and I teach a lot of teenagers how to start their journey, supervision is probably arguably the most important thing that you can give to them. Programming, it's kind of important as long as you're not being ridiculous. It's kind of important what we do, but the art of supervising is more important. And the reason for that is you develop relationships that people remember. You listen, you remember those people that coached you first and the influence that they have on you. And I would argue that it's exactly the same for someone who's just starting, no matter what age. A supervision is the most important thing that we can give to you. So I always say to people invest a little bit first, get help, then develop a habit, and then enjoy that habit. Exercise at 40 does not have to be difficult, horrible. It needs to be a good experience because we're all busy in our lives. I'm no different to that. Some days I don't want to train and I'm meant to be encouraging or inspiring people to do it, but it's habit. That's what makes me do it. And that's what we as fitness and health and performance professionals, that's our job, is to help you develop a habit that's sustainable, that's enjoyable, and that gives you the result that you want. When you're 55, 60 years of age, you want to retire and you want to go and climb a mountain somewhere, that's what we want to give you. We want to give you that physical capacity to do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it. So if you're out there thinking about starting, invest in somebody to help you. If that's me, that's fantastic. If it's Vector, that's absolutely fantastic. But if you don't live anywhere near us and you want to go and find someone, then just find someone that you're comfortable with, that you can trust and that you respect enough to listen to listen to their influence and to make you want to keep doing it for the rest of your life. Like I said, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be horrible. It needs to be enjoyable, especially the experience. So when you're looking, find those things, embrace it, and then good luck on that journey across the next 20 or 30 years of your life, so that when you're 70 years of age, you're one of the people that are uncommon in life, and you can do the things that some other people can't, because they haven't taken that step and they haven't started the journey. So Glenn Hansen here from Vector Health and Performance. Today I'm going to speak about just how to start a journey. So if you're sitting here watching this video and you're wondering, how do I start an exercise or fitness or a health kick? I'm going to give you some practical examples, practical advice, and some scientifically backed information on what to do to make sure that it's sustainable and that you don't do an all or nothing approach and then pike out in 2 weeks' time, which is what we don't want. So when you start something, have an idea of how you want to feel. So there's a really good exercise that you can do. It's called the 5 senses exercise. Think about, the 5 main senses of your body. So how is it going to feel to touch? How is it going to taste when you do it? How is it going to look? How is it going to sound when you're in an exercise experience? So I always talk to my coaches about giving an experience. So there's a great saying, I remember Ish Shane, who is a former, best personal trainer in the world. And I remember him at a conference saying that people come to people like us for the result, and they stay because we offer an experience to you. So the experience can be how we might make you feel, how we foster a sense of belonging with you, to belong to a community, to connect with someone or a group. They're the really important parts of exercise that aren't really well talked about. So if you're going to start a journey, some people love working out by themselves, and I would be one of them. I like going and training by myself, but other people hate that. They need to find a group. They need to find a buy-in, people that are going to make them accountable, or ask them for where you were today or what happened in your life today. That's what they are seeking. You've got to work that out in yourself before you start, so that when you find a place, if you're a by yourself kind of person, maybe don't go and join a group fitness class, because maybe that will burn you out in the first couple of weeks. You won't want to do that. You've got to find something that you want to do. The next thing is, if you have to do it by yourself, and if you can't or don't want to, or you're not in a position to go and invest in someone to help you, then just start small. I would precurse this to say that if you haven't exercised for at least a year, I would make a time to see your GP and go and get checked over to make sure that going back to exercise isn't going to cause you any harm, because some things happen underneath the surface where you can't feel or see them until you get to the point where you're getting puffed or you're doing exercise, and it's sometimes too late to do anything about it right then. So I would strongly advise to go and see a GP, get your heart tested, get your blood pressure tested, get all the basics sorted out, so that then they can sign you off and say you're okay to start something and there's no restrictions in place. So once you've done that, then walking is the most basic thing that people, probably don't do enough of. And there's a movement. You can look it up. There's 10,000 steps. You can strive to try and complete 10,000 steps a day, for example, which is, for some people, is 6 to 8 kilometers of walking a day. And that can be a really great way to start just building some gentle cardiovascular endurance if you haven't done anything before. The next thing is some sort of basic strength training. There's a lot of apps, there's a lot of things online and everything like that out there, and you can find information on our website and our YouTube channel about exercises you can start with. But you can start with exercises that are practical in nature, that allow you to develop some really basic strength parameters in order to start making an impact. So when you think about what's going to make an impact on you, there's a term that we use in our sciencey terms, and I'll explain it in a layperson term. So progressive overload is something that you haven't done before, and it's overloading that principle. So, for example, if you get up out of a chair once at a time, progressive overload would be sitting and getting up out of that chair 3 times. That would be a very, very basic progressive overload principle. However, once you've done that once, then to overload it again, you either have to do more, or you have to add more load, or you have to do a couple of sets of that. So 2 times 3 with a rest in between. And that's progressive overload in a doing a more context. So either you can do more, or you can make it harder, or you can make it more complex. So when we're starting to exercise, it's just doing a little bit more on a week-to-week basis than you did last time. So you might start with, repetitions of 5, and then you might start the next week with 7, might go to 9, then you might go to 11, and then you might pick a different exercise. So that's how we prescribe progressive overload. The thing that I see done really poorly in people, especially when they're returning to exercise, is to progressively overload far too quickly, which creates too much impact on the muscular system and can make people sore. So soreness was once thought to be a really positive thing in terms of growing muscle, but it's not seen to be that much of a positive any longer in especially a general population. So a little bit of sciencey stuff there. It's more about the muscle damage that's created. So there's a little bit of muscle damage, then you repair that damage. The muscle will then adapt to the stress you've placed upon it, and then you'll do the same thing again maybe in a week's time. And most of the time, you're not going to get as sore, or even not sore at all, that you did in that first week, because your body adapts to the stress that you place upon it. However, we know that we don't need to make someone sore to make an impact on you. So when you're going back to exercise, you don't need to go back and do 20 or 30 sets in the first week. You can just do 10. That's heaps. You don't need to be sore. We don't want you to be sore, because we want you to be able to get up the next day and do another little bit of exercise. The next thing that you can improve is frequency. So how many times a week do you do the work? So you might start the first week with 2 times 10 minutes of work. And that's been shown in evidence with someone that's never exercised or not exercising for a period of time to be effective at making an impact for a couple of weeks. So you can make an impact on a very small amount, but it's the habit. The frequency can sometimes help people. Some people are going to be better if they do 10 minutes every single day, which is 70 minutes a week, as opposed to 2 times 35 minutes in a session, because the frequency helps their habit. So there's just a couple of things that you can think about when you're going about your return to exercise. In the YouTube link that we'll put up about this video, we'll put down some basic exercises that you can start with. You can sign up as a link to a basic program that gives you some really basic exercises to start. And if you wish to come and ask us for help, or in any way, shape or form, then please reach out. We're more than happy to help you. We pride ourselves on getting people away from sedentary lifestyle into an active lifestyle. It's probably one of our most important pillars that we use in our business to help that 17% of Australians, exercise at a rate that's going to help your health. And we want to improve that. We want to double that. So if we can help you be part of that growing statistic, then that would be fantastic.